Hey y'all, maybe you've been thinking about buying an EV, or maybe you recently bought one, and you're trying to figure out how to maximize your savings because you keep hearing that owning an EV is so much cheaper than owning a gasoline vehicle. But depending on how you charge that EV can really impact the savings that you're going to get in the long run. Did you know that public charging, like public high-speed charging, is more than 3 times the cost of charging your vehicle at home, at least in Central Florida where I'm located. So let's dive into this and let's see if the electrons that you're paying for are actually the most cost-effective electrons that you can buy. This is Everyday Driven by DJ, where we talk real life, real drives, and the real costs of EV charging so that you can maximize your savings. Hey, so today we want to talk EV charging costs. And those charging costs vary depending on which method of charging you're using for your EV. And there's 3 main ways, all referred to in different level types. So the first type you have is your at-home charging, which is typically your level 1, maybe level 2 charging, depending on how your setup is done. Your second being level 2 public charging, and the third being level 3 public charging, which is often referred to as supercharging, as Tesla so coined it because of their charging network. Good on Tesla for snagging such a good name for that and just running with it, right? So the 3 different types, each one's going to cost a little bit differently, right? Your most economical is going to be the first one that I mentioned, which is your charging at home. Whether it's level 1 or level 2, the cost is not going to matter because EV charging fees are always paid out in cost per kilowatt hour because that's what our batteries are based off of. It's how many kilowatt hours can a battery hold. Very similar to the cost per gallons that you would pay with your internal combustion engine vehicle. Think of the electrons and kilowatt hours being the volumetric capacity of your battery, similar to the liquid, the gasoline, taking up a volume inside of the gas tank. I can give the example of my home charging costs. I live in Central Florida. My energy provider is Duke Energy, and I forget the specific fee structure that I have, but it's their normal flat rate structure. I don't do any of the time-based fees. I haven't gotten into that yet. So my flat rate that I pay between all the fuel surcharges and taxes, etc., is roughly 16.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And like I said, that's whether I'm doing level 1, which is your standard 110 volt outlet that you would have in your house, or the level 2, which is a 240 volt outlet that I have in my garage that does serve a little more oomph into my charging. That's the most economical. I can charge up my Jeep Wagoneer S from 0 to 80%, and actually I think I've done 10 to 100%, and that costs me around $12 to $14. I don't remember the exact number. So it's pretty cheap to get what would be about a full tank and 275-ish miles of range. I'm not going to break things down on a cost per mile calculation because that's honestly going to vary based on what vehicle you have. That's going to be based off of the efficiency of the vehicle as well as the battery capacity, and those are all over the place depending on which vehicle you have. The second charging method I brought up is the level 2 public charging. And that's interesting because it is slow, right? You only gain a couple of miles per hour depending on your vehicle, and it's most useful if your vehicle is going to be parked at that charger for a significant amount of time. The one thing that's nice about those, though, is that a lot of places offer those for free. The gym that I go to has a bank of level 2 chargers, and they are free to use. The place where I work at used to have free level 2 chargers, and they recently changed it over to what is the next most common public level 2 charging, which is a cost that's pretty similar to what it would cost to charge at home. And for most public places, that's anywhere from 15 to 17 cents per kilowatt hour. Again, very similar to what I pay at home, and not totally unreasonable, right? You just have to leave your vehicle there for a substantial amount of time. The only downside being that a lot of places will limit, whether it's by physical enforcement or through electronic enforcement, hour limitations, maybe 2-4 hours max, that they're okay with you sitting there taking up space at a charger. And you have to watch out for those, what they consider idle fees, because those can get pretty costly in a hurry, because they're usually charged on a per minute basis once your charging time has maxed out. The third type of public charging that I mentioned, which is the most, it's the most, I don't want to say common, but it's the most talked about, right? Because it's what everybody thinks that they need to be able to do and know about, and it's the best use that they can get out of their vehicle. And that's level 3 fast public charging, or supercharging, like I referred to earlier. I think it's the name, like it's one of those weird buzzwords that people associate with something that is like really great and it's awesome to have and it's definitely needed, when that is the most expensive way to charge your vehicle, like by a significant amount, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video. The price is going to vary based on what charging network you're going to. I want to say kind of like gas stations, but gas station pricing is very regional, and on like a micro level. Whereas I've generally found that EV charging, fast public charging, is very company based. It doesn't seem to be terribly regional, and if it is, it's like large scale regional pricing. So much so that in my smaller road trips across the southeastern United States within Florida and Georgia, in my various EVs, the pricing is all pretty much the same. And I'll be straight up, the 3 companies that I'm going to mention don't sponsor me. I have no affiliation with them. I'm just sharing the information that is publicly available within all of their apps. But I know not everybody compares on this stuff, and it's sometimes cumbersome because you're like, oh man, I have to download an app for Tesla, I have to download an app for Electrify America, etc., etc. So I understand you may not be looking, so let this be informative for you, and I hope that it is. So the 3 companies that I want to talk about are Iona, Electrify America, and Tesla. The first being Iona. They are probably the smallest network of the major networks right now, but they are expanding rapidly. And I've only used their stations once, and I was just blown away by the experience because there was no app. Like, they don't offer an app. It's literally just tap to pay. And their charging stations, the screen that is on them gives you so many metrics about the charging process, and it's super informative, and I love the way they look. I love their color scheme. All of that being said, they are also one of the most reasonably priced level 3 public charging networks that I've encountered. Their charging rate in the Central Florida area is about 39 cents a kilowatt, which is pretty dang reasonable. And I just saw an alert that for the Memorial Day weekend that all of their chargers across their entire network are going to use a special rate of 20 cents per kilowatt hour, which makes that almost as cheap as charging at home. Granted, again, charging at home prices are regional. It could vary. Your mileage may vary depending on where you live. The second network that I mentioned is Electrify America. I find that they are often the most expensive charging network that you can come across at about 60 cents a kilowatt hour. That's over 3 times the amount that it would cost to charge at home. Definitely not something that you want to be doing on a regular basis. I also find that a lot of their stations in the Central Florida and just Florida in general are older stations that haven't been kept up as well. They're often not very reliable and in need of some sort of repair. But again, they are one of the most widely available networks next to Tesla, which is the third charging network that I mentioned. Tesla's network is the most widely available network, and while I may not agree with the way that the company was founded and generally run, they did get it right as far as putting and pushing out a charging network. They recognize that in order to get their products sold and to get the EV marketplace jump-started, there needs to be a widely available charging network that is reliable. I will say their network, I don't think I've ever encountered any of their chargers that were not available and did not function. And now that they're opening up agreements with all the other automakers, and Jeep in particular now is signed up on that, it's tough to not use the convenient option. Their pricing isn't as great as Iona, but it's not as bad as Electrify America. It's about 57 cents per kilowatt hour, but their pricing will vary based on the hour of day. I have seen their pricing get low into the 40s cents per kilowatt hour, but that's generally between, like 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., so overnight type of stuff. And there's not a lot of people doing road trips through the middle of the night, so obviously not a lot of usage at that time. All of that to say, just be cautious. A lot of people buy an EV for the cost savings. My husband and I are talking about getting an EV for him for the cost savings. But those cost savings can't be realized if you're constantly using public fast charging. I get that it's great that you can go plug and in 20 minutes you're almost completely, charged up. Why not just utilize the charger at home? Your car is literally doing nothing while it's sitting in the garage overnight. You may as well use that cheaper electricity to just let it charge. And utilize the fast public chargers when you're out and about, and, running around doing a road trip, or maybe you forgot to charge or something like that. Let it be your backup. Don't let it be your primary. Hopefully, this will help some of you save some money. Like I said, charging is still super polarizing within the EV community. I can't figure out why. I think it goes into the the range figure obsession that I mentioned in my last video, where, you know, people want that big number, but you don't need that big number every day. Like I said before, I charge mine every other day. This thing costs me maybe $12 a week to run on my normal daily commute, or my normal weekly commute of about 250 miles. And I'd say that's pretty dang good. Charging at home, getting those savings, and being able to drive that far. It would definitely cost me 3 times as much in a gasoline vehicle, because I've experienced that before. Hope you learned something today. I hope you feel better about your EV purchase, or better about making that decision to look for one. It's the right move to do. And until next time, be safe, drive well, and I'll catch you next time.